All right, let's try this again. Welcome back to OU Update. I'm your host Dash. I'll be bringing Tag on here in just a minute, but I want to thank you everybody for coming out and watching on a Saturday afternoon. Hope everybody's having a wonderful evening. I want to thank everybody that has left us comments, likes, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you like the content. We're doing the best that we can, so I'll be bringing on Tag here in just a minute. We'll be bringing you some OU stuff that's happened over the week and some questions that we want answered. So appreciate everybody coming out and watching. So give me just a few minutes and we'll get started. There we go. Get him connected here and we'll get started. All right. Hey, and welcome back again. Like I said, I am Dash. This is your co-host Tag. We're here to talk about the OU update. We got our OU shirts on. Hey, you remember what we talked a little bit about earlier this morning? I hope this makes him happy.
I got my background going.
Yeah. Well, maybe that will help us out a little bit. I kid. Again, I want to thank everybody that's come out, given us comments. The more you comment, the more we learn as well. So we appreciate that. If we do make a mistake, thank you for pointing it out, and we will correct our mistake. We're just two normal guys sitting out here talking about OU football, and we appreciate everybody that's watching.
Yeah, we're not perfect. People gotta understand that. We're just doing talking OU football because that's what we like. So people gotta.
So
I get it, but we're not professionals. We don't have professional studios. Listen, I set up wherever I can set up at the time. So it's I do what I can.
Right. So over the week, and now I'm going to preface this before we get started. I'm going to preface this. Usually, I take what Paul Finebaum says with a grain of salt. But for those of you that don't know Paul Finebaum, which I'm sure most of us do, he's an SEC, ESPN analyst. I mean, he's an SEC all the way. But he did bring up a point, and I'm getting ready to break my Lincoln Riley rule about not dwelling on the past. But this was a comment that I couldn't pass up. And the comment was, under Lincoln Riley, OU from 2017 to 2021 got worse as far as a team. Now, whether I agree with that or not, I don't. I'm going to break out some of the stats that I looked up over the week. And from 2017 to 2021, the average score margin per game dropped 10 points. In 2017, we were average scoring. The margin between scores was 18, and the average score between 2021 was 8 points. In 2018, it was 15. 2019, 12. 2020, we had a better year by 19 points average, but then in 2021 we dropped significantly by 10 to 11 points at 8 points. Average yards per game, 2017 579, 18 570, 19 522, 2020 483, and in 2021 437 average yards per game. Now that's just offense. I didn't go into defense because I think most of us as Sooner fans kind of know what the defense was. That being said, and there's some other stats out there we can talk about here in just a minute. But that being said, do you, and I can't see where he's wrong, do you agree with what he said?
I mean, if you look at the stats, and obviously it's right there, but at the same time, you can't say that was you have different level of player skills, and you kind of develop your game plans to those specific players. So when you go back, we had dynamic offenses with Baker Mayfield and with Kyler Murray, and then you get Jalen Hurts comes in from Alabama, and he was similar to a Baker and to a Kyler, but not like he didn't have the throwing. I don't think his throwing was at the same level as Baker's or as Kyler's. And then you bring in Spencer. And then Spencer kind of has, I mean, he didn't never went off. He was a good quarterback. He had good games. He had games that made you think, man, you played like this all year, we're going to be good, but which is what they were supposed to do in 2021. And now listen, you could sit here and talk about 2021 all you want, right? But in reality, with the coaching change, you can look that obviously there was something off, right? We've talked about that before because you could just like nothing seemed at all, and you see the coaching change now, and it really makes you look back and think like, wait a second, was like he says that this just came about, but then you look back at the season and you're like, man, like nothing in the season went the way that it was supposed to go. Like you look at the season, Spencer was supposed to come out Heisman front runner, OU defense better than it has been in years, and it was supposed to be probably the best season and the best chance that they've had to compete for a national championship than they've had in years, and it wasn't that at all. I mean, our offense came out completely flat, almost every game minus who was it, Western Carolina or whoever it was at the beginning where we beat 73 or 76 to nothing. Other than that, like there were bright spurts here and there, but it was never a full game from beginning to end of what OU football was supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that they've gotten worse, but I mean you play to the talent. That's it. So the talent, obviously, we had better quarterbacks, better receivers. The offensive line was better. The run game was better. It was just all around better. And I think you're going to look at it now, and it's going to be the same because we're not going to. I think our offense will be good, but I don't think our offense is going to be 500, 600 yards a game good. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. That's awesome. Who doesn't want 550, 600 yards per game? But at the end of the day, this team that is being built now, I think, is more being defensive-minded. I think our offense is still going to be extremely talented, without a doubt. I think that they're still going to probably average probably close to 500. I mean,
Yeah.
It just depends on the run game and how Dylan Gabriel kind of fits in.
I mean, we know what Jeff Lebby can do. We've watched it. We've watched some of his Ole Miss teams. We've watched some of his UCF teams. I mean, we know what Jeff Lebby can do. We know we've seen games of Dylan Gabriel. We're not taking that away. But what I think where I'm coming from, and this whole Paul Finebaum thing is, I mean, in a way he's not wrong, but in a way you're absolutely right. The talent level was different, and I mean, we could take that from the first year in 2017 he was still coaching Bob guys, but again he still made up until this year he still made every Big 12 championship. I get that. That's great. That's wonderful. But stat wise, I think in a way Paul was right. I mean, but other teams could have gotten better. We know that. We absolutely know that other teams could have got better. They're going to figure out certain schemes. I mean, we saw it with Kansas State. We saw it with Iowa State where they kind of picked up on some of the things that we've done. And I get that. And I'm not taking anything away from Lincoln Riley. Again, I want to preface this. Lincoln Riley is a good coach. Again, I am not upset that he went to USC. That was his choice. That's what he wanted to do. I am just bringing what is brought to me via whatever I search on the internet, and I want to get your opinion. And I'm asking the people that are watching and the people who will watch later, I just want to know what your opinion are. Do you feel that Paul Finebaum was right? Do you feel that he was wrong? Was he way off? Let us know in the comments. But again, we can talk about Big 12 championships. The 2017 we won by 24. And then 2020, the last year that we were in it, we won by 6. again, that comes down to defenses. That comes down to coaching schemes, coaching, did he let up off the pedal too fast? Should he have kept it to the metal? Again, like I said, I take what Paul Finebaum says with a grain of salt. Usually, 99% of the time, what Paul Finebaum says is going to
He's
affect
straight
Alabama
SEC.
more than it affects any other school in the nation.
He's,
That being
he's,
said, Oklahoma is getting ready to move to the SEC, and we're getting ready. We're going to be hearing a lot more outtakes and snippets and comments from Paul Finebaum.
right. Without a doubt.
I
And
thought it was kind of funny. And again, the internet is divided. If you go on there and you look, you got fans divided. The internet's divided. Some people are going to be like, hell yeah. And then there's some that will, hey, Lincoln did what he had to do with kind of like what we just talked about. Lincoln did what he had to do with what he had. That brings me to a next subject that we're getting ready to talk about, and that is recruiting. I mean, was that a, reflection of what he could recruit, what Grinch could recruit? Now that we've got a defensive mind in there and coming off one of the best recruiting classes in OU history, what will this change? You said, like we just talked about what they scored with Lincoln Riley. What will our recruiting with Venables and now Roof and Libby and all of them, Lebby, if I get his name wrong, I'm sorry. Lebby, whatever. Jeff Lebby. What will that accomplish for us? Do we need to continue what we're doing, obviously coming off of the best recruiting that we had? Or do you see us, so we can compete in the SEC, going more in a certain area? Like, obviously, they're going to recruit. Today they just went into Georgia. I'm sure we've gone into Georgia other times. I mean, we did, obviously, but focusing more on Georgia for those big defensive linemen and those linebackers. What do you think?
I mean, listen, we got Britt Venables as a head coach now, and he will recruit the best defensive players. We know that. He did it at Clemson. He held top defenses at Clemson for years, back to back to back. He was competing and beating the top SEC teams.
Yeah.
So our recruiting, I think the recruiting is obviously, it's already shown it's going to get better. Our recruiting got better after Lincoln Riley left. Yeah, our offenses were top notch because Lincoln Riley is a great coach. He's a great offensive mind. Great offensive mind. Grinch wasn't a bad defensive coach, but he was more speed D, which is what their slogan was, speed D. That's all great and grand. But we also had tackling issues, which is why I feel like Smitty and Venables, and I think that group of coaches that we have now are going to be more technical power D, rather than, hey, let's worry about speed. Oh, speed's great, but if you can catch up to the person and you can't tackle them, then that's an issue.
Right.
If you're not making plays with that speed, it does you no good. So I think we were getting offensive names easily with Lincoln Riley because it's Lincoln Riley, again, one of the top offensive minds in the nation, without a doubt. We're getting top quarterbacks, top wide receivers, tight ends, running backs. But I think now, with a combination, and I will say it is Lebby, right? Because I'm pretty sure somebody commented and said it's not Levy, which is probably how I was pronouncing it before, but it is Lebby. So thanks for that correction. We definitely appreciate the corrections and the comments. And listen, I'll say it again: we're not professionals. We like to get on here. We like to talk OU football, and we definitely like the feedback and whether it be positive, negative, the banter, whatever. But okay, so back to the subject. I think our recruiting is definitely going to get probably into places that we're not normally used to getting places out of, because Venables has been there. Yeah. Lebby has been there. Lebby's coming from Ole Miss. He was down in Florida. So we know that we got the, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but we got the defensive coach from Alabama. So we've got a group of coaches that have recruited in these places that we're not used to recruiting in. Yeah, I'm sure we've recruited there, but how often were we actually taking players from those places that are normally going to Georgia's and going to Alabama's and going to Auburn's, and go to those top SEC schools? There's going to be some Oklahoma, and I'm sure there's going to be some Texas in there as well. Because now, again, with the move, with the move going to the SEC, that's what these young players, especially now, because, now we're going to really start looking at the 2023 class, the 2024 class. And with the impending move to the SEC, I think young players are going to be like, oh man, these guys are going to be competing in the best conference in the nation. So, and coaching staff, I couldn't be more happy. Yeah, Finebaum can say what he wants. We both know he eats, breathes, sleeps SEC no matter what. Like, no other school or conference matters if it's not SEC. So, I'm with you on that one. But recruiting, man, I think definitely we're going to see some recruiting actually successful. Let me say that successful recruiting in places that we're not used to seeing successful recruiting. Again, coaches are going to go after top players no matter where they're from, right? It's just a matter of how successful can you be when you're talking, again, against teams that are in state or, in that conference or whatever. I think it's going to be a positive thing. I think that they're still going to try to pull teams or players from out west. I think that's going to be one of those, when we had Lincoln Riley, that's one thing that he started doing. Yeah, we've gotten players from California and out west, but really it's a matter of, how many of them actually came and stayed versus, we were getting them, but now we're seeing the fruits of that, losing that basically when Lincoln Riley left. And, it's funny that he talks about, it's funny that after he moved and he took all these players and the coaching staff, then he wants to bad talk the transfer portal and how there needs to be limits. Like, come on, man, you literally just you took
just broke up with his fight, and I get it. And
again, I'm not bad mouthing him. I'm just saying, but you can't come out and say you benefited from that. You did what's best for you and your family. You recruited these players, and these players wanted to stay with you. So these players were committed to Lincoln Riley and to Alex Grinch, not to the University of Oklahoma, and that's fine with me. I want players that are committed to the university, not to a specific coach. Yes, I want them to have the best opportunity for them. If they felt that coaches them, that's fine. But I want players that are going to be dedicated to the program and to what OU football is.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think you nailed it right in the head. We need to – yes, we've gone into Georgia, Alabama. I'm sure we've gone into many of these places and recruited. It's just now – I feel we have a better chance at being successful in recruiting in these areas with Brent Venables.
Absolutely.
And I mean, even with DeMarco Murray at running backs coach, Cale Gundy at receivers coach, we're going to be successful in these areas now, I think, because of the coaching staff that these guys put together. And we've said it in the last couple of episodes that this coaching staff is phenomenal. And it's going to probably get better.
Especially, I love it as a whole. As a whole,
and getting those offensive linemen. I think there's some things that we need to still get at home. There's some players that we need to get at home. But yeah, going into Georgia, going into Alabama, going into Florida, and getting these big old defensive linemen that we've missed since Tommy Harris, and probably, Dusty Dvorak then, not Dusty Dvorak now. He was great when he's out there commentating. But Dusty Dvorak then, that's kind of alignment we need. We got, and I'm not saying we haven't gotten those. And again, it probably goes down to Alex Grinch, you're right. Alex Grinch was a speed D. He came from Ohio State and I believe Oregon, and those are Washington State maybe. And excuse me if I got that wrong. Somebody will definitely point that out. But he was speed D, and you're right. They weren't tackling. I mean, I don't know how many times that you and I talked over Facebook and social media where we were like, oh, here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. This is what I'm looking forward to with Brent Venables as coach. Good. And we talked a couple episodes ago about how many points are going to be scored. We may still be in the 50s with Levy and Dylan Gabriel. We may be. I'm just trying to be realistic on what I'm expecting for the upcoming season. I am good. If we drop off 10 points per game because we are tackling and hitting and we're sustaining long drives, I am okay with that. I'm 100% okay with 38 to 40 points. I'm okay with that. 100%. If we're getting 500 yards, it's probably because we are going 10, 15-yard drives.
Especially if our defense is only allowing 10 to 15 points.
Yeah.
I absolutely, 100% agree. I think somebody commented on that too, 30 some odd points is still a good number. It's a great number. Listen, if we can hit 35 points every week and our defense is only giving up 12 to 17, I am perfectly okay with that. Would I love a defense like Alabama or Georgia? Georgia last year they only allowed 9 points a game. And again, it was 6 most of the season until they got smoked by Alabama. So, that's the kind of defense that would be great to have. And you don't even have to have an offense that puts up big numbers. All you have to do is have an offense that stays on the field, gives your defense a little bit of a break, and scores some points. You don't have to – if you look at the teams that were winning national championships, they're not teams that are putting up 50 points a game. Alabama can put up 50 points. Georgia can put up 50 points. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying they don't have to because their defense is solid enough. Yeah. I'm excited. Is it nice having a high-flying offense that can run up this field in a minute and score points? Yeah, that's awesome, right? But
if your defense is not stopping the offense on the side, that's why we're scoring 60 points per game.
Absolutely.
Because you have to win.
Yeah, you have to because your defense is giving up an average of 30 to 35 points. So it's basically a contest on who can score the fastest. No, I am okay with a team that takes 6 to 7 minutes a drive, scores a touchdown, and then that's a long break for the defense. People don't understand that. That is a long break. You're thinking, 6, 7 minutes. That 6, 7 minutes is really more like 15 to 20 minutes in real life, right? So, no, it's take the time. I sustain drives. If we can have long sustained drives to keep the problem with our defense before is they were on the field all the time because our offense was down, and our defense is like, can we get a break? Like, we finally got to stop. Right. But then you're out on the field 2 minutes later because our offense either one went down and scored real quick or two went 3 and out. Right. So, no, I'm with you. Love the coaching setup all as a whole, all around as a whole. The coaching is man, and I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see it right off the bat. I don't think it's going to be it's going to take 2 or 3 years, to get the recruiting going. And, most people will tell you, most people that are knowledgeable or have any kind of sense of college football is, listen, if you take a head coaching job, you got to at least get 2 to 3 years under your belt because you're still playing on the old coaching staff's players and their recruiting. So it takes you a couple of years to actually get and build your own team per se of players that you recruited, right? Yeah. So, but I think they had to because of the way the coaching change happened and how quick it happened. I think that they were able to get on the recruiting trail. Obviously, they brought recruits with them. We've already seen people that decommitted, said, wait a second, we're going to go to OU. This is where we want to play. So I think, obviously we still have players that are here that are going to be playing under Venables that were recruited by previous coaches. Yes, there is those, but I think we're already going to see the impact of the recruiting that Brent Venables and the new coaching staff has been able to do almost immediately, and I think it's going to be impactful. I think it's going to be. I think people are going to be surprised.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask the viewers and people that are watching now and then we watching later. Let me ask you this. Will it be a letdown if OU does not make the Big 12 championship in 2022, 2023? Is it a letdown, or is it, no, we kind of know what we're going into. This is that first year. We got to kind of judge to see where we are. Because, again, I mentioned that because we went first year of Lincoln Riley. We didn't the first year under Bob Stoops. So did we get a little, as fans and as spectators, did we get a little spoiled under the last few years of Bob into Lincoln Riley, where bam? Or no, this is a grading year. We want to see where Brent is, and we want to kind of judge. And if we get to the Big 12 championship, great. But if we don't, it's okay too, because now we kind of see where we need to go from there. Does that hurt us? Or is that okay because that's what we want?
Honestly, you got to look at the fan too. You know, that's not just, I mean, me, you and I think you and I can sit here and say, and any like OU fan that, again, knows anything about college football, no, I think that there are fans out there that are absolutely spoiled, 100%, without a doubt. If OU's not winning the Big 12 championship every year and making the playoffs, then it's a letdown. And that's the problem with college football. And when you get on that level, is you're expected. Every year you're just expecting it. And you've got to look. I made a comment before. Well, I made a comment to a friend of mine before, and it was, this is not the NFL. You don't have the same team every year. Every year is almost like starting fresh. Yeah, you have returning players, but you're never going to have a year where the 11 that's on every side of the ball is the same 11. You know what I mean? It changes every year because you've always got people that are coming and going. You're always going to have people. It's not the NFL. An NFL team could stay exactly the same. Do they? No, not always. You have people retire. You get people to get traded, free agency, whatever. But for the most part, people are signing 4-year contracts or whatever, and they stay with the same team for years upon years. Right? College football, you don't have that luxury. You know, they're gonna leave. They're gonna go to the NFL. They're gonna graduate. You know, even if they don't go to the NFL, they're gonna graduate and they don't get to play football anymore unless they play, you know, for some little league, you know, I'm not going to say the USFL, but you know what I mean? Like, it's some kind of local league within like a few states. So people, but people don't understand that. Again, people are very spoiled to the culture that OU football is because they had that luxury of winning Big 12 championship after Big 12 championship. This year was 100% a letdown in a sense that of what it was supposed to be. Listen, we still won what, 11 games?
Yep.
Still went 11-2. That's a good year. It's a letdown because you expected it to be one of the best years. I did too, right? Because of what we had that was supposed to be OU football this year. And that's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning of the show is, you know, we had all these high expectations of we're supposed to be one of the top teams, probably one of the best chances we've had to make a playoff and win a playoff game. I had front runner for the Heisman, all went to crap, right? But we still managed to win 11 games. And we won 11 games and didn't win the Big 12.
Right.
So that also shows, look at what the Big 12 has done. You had a Baylor team. Nobody expected Baylor to do what they did. You had an Oklahoma State team, which people semi-expected Oklahoma State to be that good. So you can't get mad at winning 11 games, right? Um, I think if so, back to your question, I guess. Sorry, I went off on a tangent, but back to the question. I think people have to look at it. It is a coaching change. I think we're going to do a lot better than what experts, the real experts,
Right.
think that we're going to do. Because if you look at any of the too soon preseason top 25s, we're at the bottom of all of those, right?
Yeah.
And I am perfectly fine with that. That's like going into this past year, we were out there at the top, right? And it was a letdown for everybody because even though we won 11 games, we didn't live up to the potential that what we were supposed to be. Now nobody's expecting that. Nobody's nobody's expecting OU to be anything. And I think the people that are used to winning these Big 12 championships and get upset when we don't, I think that's better for them when we're not expected to do good, because then they're like, oh, well, man, OU's not supposed to do any good this year. Woo! That's fine if they don't win the Big 12 championship, right?
Yeah.
So
Don't get me wrong. I don't get me wrong, and the fans out there, don't get me wrong. I want us to win every year. I want us to
absolutely,
win the Big 12, win a national championship every year. That's OU football. We get it. I understand that. But I think realistically, we have to think about there is a chance. I mean, obviously we showed it this year. There's a chance that even with Brent Venables coming in, there's a chance that we don't. And I want the people to know that that's okay if we don't, because we can kind of gauge where we're at. It's okay. And do I want to win the Big 12 championship? Absolutely. Do I want to win a national championship? Absolutely. And even with the experts ranking us so low, that's good. Like you said, that's good. But there's still, if you go look at the Vegas odds right now, there's still better odds that OU wins the national championship this year than the past winner of the Big 12 and Baylor and Oklahoma State. The odds are better. And that is because it's OU football. And I get it. I guess, like I said, my question is, and I think for me, it won't be a letdown if we don't win the Big 12 championship. It won't be, because I understand the coaching changes. I mean, even when Lincoln Riley took over, I was like, oh man, we might not be Big 12 championships again. I get it, and I understand that. And that shows a lot again for what Lincoln Riley did. He took us, and that's great. Loved him for it, and I don't hate him that we won all those championships on him. But again, I think I'm just, and it probably is because OU's been so good that we did get spoiled, just like you said. So yeah, I don't think it's a letdown if we don't win.
no, and I think for the most part, people will understand that.
Yeah, I just, but in turn, I don't want it to hurt us going into the SEC. And I said this on other shows. And shows that I've done in the past, that if I'm Oklahoma State and I'm Baylor and I'm Kansas State and Texas Tech and all these other teams, I want to go out and put it to OU and Texas. I want to go spank them so bad that, like, hey, listen, you're leaving to go to the SEC. If that's me, if I'm these other teams,
Absolutely.
I want, I don't want you to win another Big 12 championship as long as you're still in the Big 12 and when you go to the SEC. That's what, if I'm the other teams. But now, I'm OU all the way. So now I want BV to go in, pedal to the metal, and show the world, because again, we are a divided nation when it comes to football. You have your fandoms. I want to go into the SEC and show them that we're not going to lay down and roll over, and we're just going to be
a Missouri.
Nothing to get. I mean, Missouri and Texas A&M, the first couple of years, they were really competitive, and now they're fluctuating. I mean, Texas A&M was a little bit better than Missouri in the long run. I definitely think we will be better than Missouri at certain things, and as far as how we compete. And I think we'll be better than Texas A&M on certain aspects. I mean, for the majority of the time that Texas A&M was in the Big 12, we owned the record against them. So I'm not really worried about how we're going to play against those teams.
Right.
But it comes back to recruiting again. Like I said, we need to get into the Georgias, to the Alabamas. So when we go into the SEC, and it's not just good Oklahoma players going to Alabama and going to Georgia to play, because now Oklahoma is in the SEC, and now we've kept them homegrown talent, kept the big, big guys that are on the line, offense and defense. We're keeping them here because OU's playing in the SEC, and that's what I want to see, and that's what I hope at the end of the day makes us competitive than some of these other teams.
Right. So, it's funny. So we're talking about the move to the SEC. So I want to you always bring up the question. So let me bring up a question. It was just announced this week, right? I'm pretty sure it was this week. I work nights now, so I kind of get confused on my days.
Right.
But it was just announced, I'm pretty sure this week, that the playoffs will stay at 4 teams until its current contract ends, which is in 2025. Right. Which also happens to be the year that OU and Texas are supposed to go to the SEC. And a lot of people are saying it's because of the OU-Texas move that it's being held off till then. So that's what I'm not really worried about. But do you think with the playoffs staying at 4 teams, do you think that affects OU-Texas move to the SEC? Because you and I both agree that we believe 2023 OU Texas are out.
Yeah.
Yes, it's supposedly, it's supposed to be in 2025. We know what it is officially supposed to be, but we both agree that we don't think it'll stay. It's going to be 2023. We both kind of threw that number out to, of that being the year that they moved. Do you think it stays at 2025? Do you think we're still on track to be 2023? What do you think? You think it affects it?
People at the end of the day, I read a lot of that stuff up on that. The Mountain West conference dude, the commissioner from Mountain West, he wanted to have a scapegoat. At the end of the day, it's not really OU and Texas' fault. What it really boils down to is money, and the expansion boils down to money and one bowl game only, and that's the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is not ready to give up certain. In a way, I don't blame them. I mean, they are the granddad. The Rose Bowl is the granddaddy of them all, and they've been around forever. And in a way, I don't blame them. So, to answer your question, no, it's not OU and Texas's fault. It is, it's still holdouts from ACC and Big Ten and I believe Pac-12 are part of it. They're just trying to get all their money in what they can get until the Rose Bowl kind of sees what it's going to do. And then in 2025, that's when it'll expand. That's for sure. I mean, if it's not 12, it's at least 8. It's 12, if it's not 12, it's at least 8. And I think they will expand it. They're using certain things as excuses right now, as a longer postseason hurts. Well, no, you just take away certain warm-up games that we like to call them, as you know, the Western Michigans, the Citadels, the whatever else is out there
right.
that they play. Once you take those away and you actually play a full conference schedule, you might have one warm-up game, but you're not really playing any. The champions are playing a few more games, but it wouldn't be any different again than playing.
Right.
2 other warm-up games with the Citadel and things like that. And I use the Citadel because, I get where we're going. Yeah, no, and I'm right there with you. I still think after the 2022-2023 season, I still think OU and Texas move on. I could be wrong. I mean, this is just my opinion.
So you still think that this is the last year that OU's. So this year, you still think is the last year OU Texas are in the Big 12?
Yeah, I think they play this season out. I think they buy themselves out of their contract and whatever. This still gives them a year for the SEC to kind of figure out how they're going to break down their divisions and how they're going to schedule things. So I think they play this year out. They play in the Big 12. The end of the year, they buy themselves out. Texas and OU move on. I don't care what Barry Trammell and the sports animal and Jim Traber have to say, Jim Traber is going to talk bad about OU no matter what whenever he gets a chance. So, I get that. But OU and Texas leave, and they're on to the SEC. In the 2023 season, we see OU and Texas playing their first games in the SEC. That's my.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I think this, in my opinion, I think this will be the last year OU Texas are in the Big 12.
And the expansion is going to come when they can figure out how to do it and still maintain all the money and still maintain the money that these bowl games get.
And I think,
and I mean, in the long run,
they're going to try to figure out how it's not.
I mean, I know that even if they had come to a conclusion and said, yes, we're expanding, it would have been 2025 anyways. They're going to wait. At least the NCAA and the commissioners are going to wait until the contract is up with ESPN and all these other channels.
Right.
I mean, Amazon could come in because we know that Amazon's getting ready to have some football games in their own football channel. And if you haven't read into that, you need to go look and see what Amazon's doing because they're getting ready to pull Sean McVay away from the Los Angeles Rams to start covering their NFL games. We could see Amazon taking over and coming in, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that Amazon does that and says, hey, here, bam, I'll take ESPN, I'll take this money, I'll take you away from ESPN, and here we go. Now you got college football on Amazon. It's not that far out of the.
It's all about the money.
I mean, again, it's money talks. So when Amazon gets in there, all right, I'm going to pay you this much money when you expand to 12, 8, 12, 16, whatever it is.
Yep. I agree.
And that's just my opinion on that, as lowly as it is, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. And
absolutely not.
I could foresee that. Does it happen? 2025, 2026, we'll
find out in 3 short years.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, brother. Got to cut it close tonight. Well, next week we will talk. I saw what you sent me before. We will definitely break that down. Next week we'll be talking about the schedule, the 2022 schedule that OU has. We'll kind of break down what we think and where we foresee wins and losses and go from there. But appreciate you coming out, man. It was a good show.
Absolutely, man.
Maybe one of these
time as always.
To go live somewhere and make our
we're going to work on it.
Happy. So from all of us here at Dash Life, we appreciate you coming out and watching. Thanks, Tag. We will see you next Saturday. And until then, Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner, baby.
Later.